let's get to the woman of the hour, Senator Amanda Chase from Chesterfield, running for a second term 2019 against Amanda Pohl. It's a battle of the Amandas. And I was anxious to get Amanda on today. First of all, she had a Facebook exchange with somebody the other day, and she was talking about women defending themselves. And the Fräulein, my wife Ann, the saintly one, the Fräulein, read her post. And she has a gun. And she said, after reading Amanda's Facebook exchange and post, I decided I need to get a second gun just in case the first one fails. So now she got two guns. She's two-gun toting. Amanda Chase joining us now. Amanda, give us your take on what went down in Tuesday's special gun grab session. What do you think?
Well, good morning, John. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Hey, this is just Democrats are a disaster looking for anything to take the focus off their scandals. And I think that this was very clear. Republicans was a huge victory for Republicans, in my opinion, and for Virginians, because we were able to make a play that the governor wanted to take the national spotlight off of the executive branch and all of its scandals and refocus that attention on guns. He politicized the Virginia Beach tragedies that took place instead of sympathizing with the victims. I feel like Republicans did a great job of making the play of being there for an hour and a half, forwarding the bills to the Crime Commission to show that we are serious. It is a bipartisan issue to be concerned about gun violence. How we look at that is completely different. Republicans feel that guns save lives. Democrats feel like no one other than the government is capable of firing a handgun or protecting themselves, and so Democrats only want government officials and the police, law enforcement to carry, and they're going to do everything they can to restrict your gun rights. I look at this from a personal standpoint. For me, this is personal as a woman who desires to exercise my Second Amendment right, as so many other women that have come to my office on a special session day. Coming to my office was this couple, and one of the ladies that came in, and I won't mention her name because this was very traumatic for her to tell this story, was that she was on a girls' weekend, and they were in a public park, and she had her firearm, thankfully, but she woke up to a man standing over her. Fortunately, she had her firearm, and she was able to scare the intruder away, but they called law enforcement, and it took them 20 minutes to get there. The person that violated it trespassed on their cabin got away. Okay, so by the time the law enforcement got there, she had already taken care of business. And, that's the thing that really keeps sticking out to me is that, we are so blessed in this country to have great law enforcement. I'm a huge supporter. I champion the legislation for the Virginia Fraternal Order of Police and our sheriff's office. I've co-patroned bills for raises for our sheriffs. I'm all about law enforcement, and I have a great relationship with our law enforcement in Chesterfield, Colonial Heights, and Amelia, and throughout Virginia. But under the best scenarios, these incidences occur within minutes. And so you have to be prepared. And I found this for myself, especially, everybody has to assess their personal risk. And, some people feel because of personal circumstances, they have more risk than others. There was a point in time when I was homeschooling my kids. That risk wasn't, in my opinion, as great. And, it didn't even cross my mind, to be honest with you. But since I've been in office and I've had threats and, people coming after me, I'm like, y'all are not going to scare me away from speaking truth. I'm going to stand for the values of my district, and I'm going to continue to advocate for those. And I'm not going to be intimidated or afraid. And I'm finding that more women across the Commonwealth are hearing my story, like your wife, and it, that encourages me because we don't want to be victims. And I'm not saying that, whenever I was referring to naive, I believe that this particular person that was making these comments on Facebook, first of all, I think they were a troll, but, they're saying, that I'm blaming the rapers for this. I'm not blaming the rapers. My comment had to do with a specific comment about me jogging at a park and a public park, and I said that I would carry a firearm, and she was criticizing me, saying that she was criticizing me for exercising my Second Amendment right to carry a firearm and telling me that I was stupid and that I was paranoid. And I was offended by that because that's my right as an American and as a Virginian to be able to carry a firearm whenever and wherever, because I'm following the law. And who is she to criticize me or any other woman or any other man for exercising their Second Amendment right?
Well, Amanda,
she has a right, she has a right to that statement, but I don't agree with it. And I think she's naive for believing there's no evil in the world.
Amanda Chase, one thing that you've done here, and I think this is why I wanted to have you back on today. One thing that you've done is you've raised awareness for women to put themselves in a position to protect themselves with a handgun. And you certainly had an effect on my wife, but you should have effect on many other people, because if you're in any situation and and you have a concealed or exposed weapon, either way, you're simply going to be in a better position to protect yourself and your family than when you're not. And I think that's really what you were saying in that Facebook post. That is why I've leapt to your defense here in this. And I think the criticism you've gotten has been unfounded, and it's from people, I don't know, you want to call them naive or whatever. But look, I want my wife, who is the centerpiece of my family, to protect herself. Right now, I'm with my son in Atlanta, okay? She has to go out, she runs businesses. I don't know what's going to happen. I want her to be protected. And the best way for her to be protected is if she's trained and she's able to carry and have a handgun at all times, because anything happens, she's in a better position. I don't know who could argue with that. I don't know who would want to argue with that. And if you choose not to carry a firearm, don't. That's your choice. But I don't want to have that choice taken away. And that's what these gun grabbers want to do. They want to take that choice away and put those that could be victimized in a much more vulnerable position. And Amanda, to me, that makes no sense whatsoever. Now, I want to get back to the session and get your take on one thing. But the first thing I have to do is tell you that this segment, Amanda, is brought to you by Doug's Lawn and Cleaning Service, and they salute our American heroes who, through their own personal sacrifice, ensure our freedoms here and abroad. From veterans of foreign wars to our servicemen and women here and overseas, to the police, fire departments, and EMTs, we salute you. That message was courtesy of your friends at Doug's Lawn and Cleaning Service, located in Lynchburg, Virginia. They're a concerned corporate neighbor working for a safer community for all of us. That's Doug's Lawn and Cleaning Service, on the air because they care about our troops. Doug's Lawn and Cleaning Service, bringing you this message today. Now, Amanda, let's get to the special session on Tuesday. I didn't like the fact that it just ended with an adjournment. Why didn't you guys stay and fight and defeat all these bills that you've already defeated in the past? Why not stay and fight and defeat them? Why did you adjourn?
Well, actually, what a lot of people didn't realize is that we didn't just adjourn. I actually had a health and education committee meeting right after the adjournment for session. So what happened was the House and the Senate adjourned after the bills were forwarded to the respective committees, to courts of justice, to health and education. And so, two bills came to my committee, health and education. The rest of them went to courts of justice. And from there, you had Republicans and Democrats in there. And what we did is we voted to forward all of the bills that were there to the Crime Commission. And the Crime Commission is they're meeting through August and so forth. And when we come back on November the 18th, once again, the General Assembly will vote on recommendations. We'll vote up or down these recommendations made by the Crime Commission. And to answer your question, why didn't we just vote them up or down? There was some concern that we did not have the votes in the House to be able to defeat these measures. There were some weak-kneed Republicans on the House side that could have very well voted for some of these bills, and we couldn't take that chance in an election year. So that's the play that was made. It was one that we agreed on in advance. It was a play that everybody could live with and stick with. And let me tell you, it was the best option given the makeup of the General Assembly that we had. I feel like that any action that we would have done that day other than that would have taken the focus off of the tragedies that took place in Virginia Beach. We have already, as you mentioned, rehashed many of these bills. We did lose Senator Wagner, which was a concern. So we only had one vote in the Senate to work with. One person caved and we were in trouble. So it was a safe bet, if you will. And our hope is that as we campaign, because we're all running for re-election right now, that we will campaign. Everybody knows where I stand on gun rights issues. You know, I'm not going to vote in any way to take away gun rights from anybody or restrict those rights. One of the bills that I'll be putting forward this coming session will have to do with eliminating gun-free zones. Anytime that we create these gun-free zones, we are disarming law-abiding citizens. And so that's one of the things that I'm concerned about, and will work with members of my caucus to make sure that we don't restrict any more rights of our law-abiding citizens.
So Senator Amanda Chase, who's with us, Senator Amanda Chase from Chesterfield, Republican State Senate, Virginia, running for re-election November 2019 for a second term. And Amanda's running against Democratic nominee Amanda Pohl. So it's the battle of the Amandas. Just to give our listeners might not be familiar take on this, Amanda's the favorite. Amanda Chase is the favorite. This is a Republican district, and Chase should win this race. She'll raise the money she needs to be competitive, and she's got a very vibrant base. So we're already now predicting, other than something earthquake happening, you're gonna win. But let me just ask you this. It sounds like what you're saying, Amanda, and I appreciate your candor as always, that Republicans in the Senate might have been facing one or two defections, which would have handed Governor Northam victories on some, if not all, of the legislation he had. And you guys thought better than risk that to abandon ship, adjourn, turn it over to the Crime Commission, and battle it out in September and October. Is that my understanding?
That's right. And I think it takes a lot of the political pressure off of the weak-kneed Republicans. And, they've got two more years or 4 more years, and hopefully they are less inclined to be political and do what's best for Virginians, and that is to not restrict their gun rights.
I really appreciate your honesty, because this is really what we've been trying to get at here for 3 days, is an admission from somebody in the GOP caucus that there were senators that were ready to cave, weak-kneed as you called them, that was going to hand Northam victories in bills that have been defeated numerous times under the pressure of this. And so that's the reason that your caucus leader, your majority leader, went for the adjournment. And I think, look, here's why I love having you on. Voters in Virginia are smart. And if you tell Republicans why this went down, they get it, right? Now we get it. You were going to lose some votes, so to stop that, you're going to turn it over to the voters in November. You kick it to a commission, leave town. That now makes sense. A lot of people are upset that the adjournment happened. Nobody knew about it, was caught by surprise, and everybody expected a fight that never happened. So to me, Amanda Chase, that makes a lot of sense. How does this translate over into the Amanda Chase re-election campaign 2019?
Well, I will tell you that there is a huge contrast between me and my opponent. Um, we're we're complete opposites on everything. I'm going to support your Second Amendment rights completely. You know, I have a voting record that people can look at. I have 100% reading with the NRA, VCDL, and I also carry. That's in sharp contrast to my opponent, who I know she, you know, I would question whether she owns or carries a gun because some of the questions and statements that she's made show that, you know, a lot of people do not understand what is involved and what hoops you have to jump through already. They don't already know Virginia law when it comes to the Second Amendment, and it's very apparent by the questions and the statements that they made. So if there's on the Second Amendment, there is a very clear choice, really, on all the issues. You know, my opponent is a huge supporter of Planned Parenthood. I would imagine she supports the governor's initiative of late-term abortion because that seems to be the direction the party is going. You know, we're looking at the Democratic Party right now, and, you know, they are extreme. They're not just – this is not the JFK Democrats. We're talking about socialist Democrats taking over the Democrat Party. It's not the same Democratic Party, and
right.
That's the big difference here. I mean, that's what we're telling people. This is not. I mean, there's so many more independents now because they're so frustrated, honestly, with both parties. And so, you know, my whole thing is, look, you know, I'm the same person I was that you elected back in 2015, and now I have a voting record that shows that I'm 100% pro-life, that I support your Second Amendment rights. I am for less government. I am for less taxes. I voted against every tax increase, every tax fee that has come forward, and now I have a record of legislative accomplishments like coal ash, healthcare transparency, just transparency in general. For the first time ever, you can actually go online and watch the committee meetings online. They're even archived. That's part of the Transparency Caucus that I co-founded. You know, I have actually. I always say, you know, I am not a politician. I'm a mom, and now I've proven I can get things done, cleaning things up. You know, that's what moms do, right? So, you know, everything from the coal ash cleanup, such a huge issue that's been on the table, that's been now taken off with a huge solution. The governor signed that into law. We are actually across Virginia now. We are reducing opportunities for cancer, because that's what the coal ash was doing. That hexavalent chromium, the radon, the arsenic that was being dumped into the James River was elevating risk of cancer, according to the Southern Environmental Law Center. And now, thanks to Senator Sturgill and I working together in a bipartisan fashion, we were able to find a legacy solution for that issue, and now it's being taken care of. You know, everybody says politicians can't get anything done. This year alone, I've had 13 pieces of historic legislation to pass and get signed into law. So, you know, my opponent is not going to be able to touch that. I mean, she doesn't have any.
When you can work with Scott Servo, you can get things done. Senator, we're out of time. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Thank you, Senator Chase, for your candor